Afternoon. David Freezer here alongside Paddy Davitt, back from Colney this afternoon where, of course, we've been talking Arsenal. Carabao Cup 4th round tie tomorrow night at the Emirates, as I'm sure you don't need reminding. And I think the air is kind of that everybody's really looking forward to this, aren't they?
Big start, Dave. Yeah, no, it's feel-good factor around the place. Understandably, you know, we all know the stats by now. There's plenty of them, and they're all positive. Yeah. So the standout stat for me as we set this one up tomorrow night is 9,000 Norwich fans. We'll thick end of 9,000. Still can't get over that. It's just a phenomenal, you know, take up of tickets.
It's going to be quite a sight, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's various people saying to me that's the biggest ever for a nighttime away following. Certainly the biggest since the playoff final. And yeah, that's going to be some spectacle. And now, after what happened yesterday, go and relax and enjoy it. And that's as much for the players as it is for the fans and for Daniel Farke. Yes, of course, they'll want to go there and continue this unbelievable run and scalp Arsene Wenger's Gunners. But win, lose or draw tomorrow night, well, win or lose tomorrow night, you know, it's just going to be a great occasion, I think, and something to really enjoy, and something they deserve, that set of players and the fans as well, because the turnaround has been immense.
Yeah, I mean, it's a free hit. I mean, Daniel didn't really want to use that kind of terminology that we sort of threw at him, did he? Because obviously it's a game they're going to take very seriously. But you can tell in his demeanour that it's one that they're going to look forward to. We will touch on the Derby game, of course, which was only yesterday. This season has just been non-stop, hasn't it? We had that before the international break. It was 7 games in 21 days, and now we've got 2 in 3 days. So it's certainly keeping us busy, and all you guys as well. We'll come back to that, but let's go get on with the team news first. Nothing too bad, really, and you know there was a few sort of bright spots really from Daniel, wasn't there?
Zimmerman's good. Well, it might be too soon for him tomorrow night, as you rightly say. 48 hours is a ridiculously short turnaround, but the bigger picture is it doesn't look like it is what you might have feared, which was maybe knee ligament damage. You know, when you hear swollen knee, you do fear the worst. But apparently he's rocked up all right this morning. He's getting treatment on it. As his head coach pointed out, he's a rough, tough German. Apparently the Germans can handle these sort of physical setbacks. So he wasn't even ruling him out for tomorrow. I think that would probably be probably too optimistic, but certainly it sounds like it isn't going to be a longer term thing, which is what you feared when, you know, it was clearly something he picked up, I think, in the first half, and it got to the point by 60-65 minutes it was too painful, and the type of player he is, you get the sense he is in a bit of a John Terry kind of warrior mould, and it must have been really painful for him to have to actually admit defeat and come off around the 60-minute mark. But
at least it allowed Grant Hanley to get 30 minutes under his belt, so there was sort of a positive there.
It certainly was, yeah, that's money in the bank for the lad. But in terms of tomorrow night, fitness-wise, as you said, fitness call to be made on Zimmerman.
Hanley Cup tied, of course. Which is not helpful, but
Russell Martin, as a result, maybe of the concerns at centre-back, is in the squad tomorrow. He played 90 minutes for the development squad at the weekend, and so he will travel. A little bit of tonsillitis, apparently, around the camp, particularly with Josh and Marco Stiepermann. So they're being monitored, and that'll probably be a late call. So that's a new one. But Oliveira, for me, is the one. You know, woke up yesterday morning, didn't feel he was in the best shape to start the game when he had been earmarked for a start at Portman Road. Conversely, he's woken up this morning, he feels a lot better, according to his manager, and he'll train this evening. He was going to do a little bit, and then tomorrow he'll do a little bit as well. And I guess it's a day by day at the minute with him. But the interesting line that we haven't had so far from the head coach was that they don't think it is actually, you know, it's not something with the groin per se that needs to be addressed. That's where the pain is, but you know, all the scans are coming back clear in terms of that area of his body, so it's kind of now tracing the source of it. He's getting pain in his back, you know, his hip area, and apparently he's also seen a dentist. And, you know,
that's quite a strange one to sort of pop up, wasn't it?
It is, but I think, you know, one of our colleagues was saying apparently Stephen Gerrard had something similar where he went and had his wisdom teeth out, and that was connected to sort of muscular problems in other parts of his body. You know, it is all interconnected, isn't it? So they're desperate, obviously, to get to the bottom of it, because, as Farke rightly says, it's messing with the guy's head now, that he feels so good some days, and then other days he doesn't feel he's able to go and put a shift in. And because he'd started the season so well, scoring goals, important goals, he will, and he's watching a team who are doing what they're doing, 9 unbeaten, everything's so positive, the momentum's building. He wants to be a part of it. He wants to be a leading actor. If we want to go back to Fulham, when he was not part of the front 11, we know how that panned out. So on this occasion, it's more to do with his body letting him down rather than any decision selection wise his manager's making. But it is a concern. It is a concern now because if they can't get to the bottom of it and he's not able to start games, then A, it's an issue for the lad himself, but B, it's also an issue for Cameron Jerome because you're having to flog that guy because there isn't any real alternative. And again, the head coach more or less admitted if Oliveira wakes up tomorrow, doesn't feel he can start the game, it'll be Jerome again. And that's a lot of load to put on his body in the manner that he plays the game as well, in that one up top system, having to run the channels and occupy centre backs. And that for me would be a concern moving forward because at some point that will take its toll, on him, and then you are looking a bit threadbare.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really an option beyond that. And there was a nice line from Daniel on Cameron, wasn't there, saying, well, if he has such a great attitude that if he only had one leg, he'd try and play for us. So that's good to hear. But beyond that, you're looking at maybe trying Josh Murphy, Yannick Wilscott. I mean, we all know that he can be a bit of a danger man if you get him running in behind a defence. He's got, as he showed yesterday against Ipswich, he's got great pace, hasn't he?
He has. I mean, ultimately, beyond tomorrow night, because he's not available, the final game of his ban, it's Marley Watkins, isn't he? He will be the go-to. We saw that at Brentford in this competition. He played very well that night in a central role, and that, I think, for the league, which is the most important thing, if Oliveira / Jerome aren't available, I think certainly before the window, it's going to be Marley Watkins is the go-to for the next cab off the rank.
Yeah, so I think that pretty much wraps up the team news, doesn't it? There's not too much change. I mean, Stephen Naismith not ready yet, is he? Russell Martin supposedly, I've seen a few photos on Twitter that he was in with the fans at Portman Road yesterday. So after playing 90 minutes for the under-23s on Friday, that's quite a step up, isn't it? It'd be interesting to see how he does. Marcel Franco, I guess he's a fairly certain starter, you would have thought. It's a difficult one for Daniel, a difficult balance to strike. But Arsenal showed what we know what they're capable of. Beat Everton 5-2 on Sunday, didn't they? But I guess we're probably going to see. I've got their team here, and on the bench they had Jack Wilshere, Alex Iwobi, Olivier Giroud, Theo Walcott. They played very little part in that game. So that shows you the sort of players that we're probably going to see on the other side tomorrow night, isn't it?
I thought Farke basically hit the nail on the head in the sense that both Norwich and Ipswich, Norwich and Arsenal played on Sunday afternoon. It'll be 48 hours by the time it gets to kick off tomorrow night since they've played. So in that respect, you think, well, that's a level playing field. Then, as he rightly pointed out, they bring Sanchez out, they put Giroud in, they bring Ozil out. I think he said they put Walcott in. World-class players. Looking at Norwich, and we're talking about, well, if Oliveira can't play, it's a load on Jerome. If Zimmerman doesn't play, maybe Closer has to go to the well again because Hanley isn't available. It's just that depth of resource in sharp contrast, and that does bring it home to you. And I think it's going to be a massive ask. Really is a massive ask for all those factors. If you pull all the strands together, to expect Norwich to go there and come away with a place in the quarterfinals is, a massive ask. I think. And my concern moving forward is that you don't finish tomorrow night, you're out of the League Cup and Jerome's done something, or Closer's done something, or heaven forbid Angus Gunn plays and he does something. It is for me all about self-preservation in the sense of a squad that it feels every game is getting reduced in number, and we don't need any more problems for the manager for Derby this coming weekend. Yeah, you want to have fun, but you don't want consequences on it for the league. But I mean, as well as all those good players that they had on the bench, Arsenal have clearly got a big academy, and hoping to see this Reece Nelson, who's tearing up trees at the moment. He's been playing in them in the Europa League for Arsenal, so get to see some of their young talent as well. Let's take a backward step then and look at the Derby game. We've got a few comments. Got a nice comment here about the Maddison goal from Brian Cornwell. In my house watching the game yesterday, I'm 61. Maddison scored. I ran around the garden. Love it. Even though I now live in Dover. That doesn't prevent you from celebrating goals, Brian, but that's good to hear. It was a heck of a strike, wasn't it? And another big day in the career of James Maddison. Was, yeah, and I didn't actually until this morning listen to his post-match interview, and what a mature guy he is for 20 years of age. He's just taking it all in stride, and it was almost like, okay, as he stood on the pitch there at Portman Road, taking that in, it was right. That's gone, and we move on. We got a massive game at Arsenal Tuesday, and just to be able to think like that, as well, when he must be. The emotion must be coursing through his veins. I mean, as he said in that interview, his mum and dad are in the stands in the away end with his brother. Biggest game he's played in. He more or less said that was the biggest goal he scored in his young career, and he's just getting so many plaudits, and he deserves them because he's taken his chance. That's what you love to see. You love to see a young player who, at the outset of the season, probably didn't think he was going to get, or at least he'd have a hell of a job getting past Pritchard and Wes. Pritchard gets injured. Wes is, at 35, needs to be managed in terms of his load. So there you go, Alex. There you go, James. Sorry, there's an opportunity. Can you grab it? And boy, has he grabbed it. I mean, I've seen one or two now getting a bit fearful that January's around the corner and what that might mean, but that underlines how well he has done. That I think it's inevitable. There will be the whiff of speculation about his future, but that's maybe for another day. But right now he's first name on the team sheet, and that's a testament to the guy because, as I say, there looked like there was a bit of a roadblock ahead of him, and he might have had to do a Ben Godfrey and go out into League One, Carlton Morris, another one, and go and learn your trade a bit more there. But no, he's he's really shown that he can operate in a team at the top end of the Championship, and you just hope now that because he is so young that there might be an inevitable dip. We saw it with Jacob Murphy last season. Young players' inconsistency is the danger, but even if he goes through a little bit of a lull, he's shown beyond doubt for me that he is now a frontline option for Norwich.
Three goals in 4 games, and for me, there's a hunger there. I mean, this is a guy who, you used the phrase there, he's taking it in his stride, and I see him as someone who's not overawed by this at all because he seems to have that mentality of that he expects to play at a high level. That he's very happy to be playing for Norwich in the Championship at the moment, but I think he thinks he could play for a top club one day.
Possibly so, and as I say, ability-wise, I don't think that's beyond him. Obviously, knowing his backstory a little bit, I know at Coventry that Tottenham and Liverpool were both looking at him, and then fair play to Mr. McNally, he managed to swoop in, and Norwich did a deal with Cov.
That's like a bargain now.
It is, but I think even at that point, I think Maddison himself, to show you his maturity, he clearly felt that Norwich as a stepping stone at that stage of his career, 18, 19, whatever he was going to get more exposure first team wise at Norwich than he would at Tottenham and Liverpool, and that isn't always how young players think. So there's a guy who's got his head firmly screwed on. So I don't think if there was anything to go back to the January scenario, swirling around him, I don't think he'd buy into that too much, and nor would I think he'd be looking to move away because he knows. Look at how he's accelerated literally in the last 5 or 6 weeks in terms of his career development, and that's from playing regularly week in week out, having the trust of his head coach and the players around him. And as you say, to talk about his confidence, to take them shots on the goal against Middlesbrough, the finish yesterday.
I was sure he was going to score as soon as he got the ball.
Well, exactly, yeah. And in his own mind, I'm sure there was never any doubt. I mean, the free kick at Reading, for a 20-year-old to stick your chest out and say, right, I'm on the free kicks, I'm on the corners. There's no lack of confidence in that young man, and he's backing up, his belief clearly that he is good enough, and it's exciting times, for Norwich to have a player like that and see how he can develop over the next period. It's hugely exciting, I would imagine, for all those Norwich fans.
He's certainly doing well, and I mentioned for Wes, we did mention him there. He did start the move for that goal with a good bit of play, didn't he? So let's get a few more comments in here. Steve Wells, great win yesterday over the, over the Blues. Bring on the Gunners. Simon Meadows, how brilliant was Daniel Farke's Twitter message to us fans? Now, this was a nice little moment, only a short sort of 45-second video that the club put out after full time. Daniel right down the camera, speaking directly to the fans, ladies and gentlemen, as he started. And I thought that was a really nice idea from the club. And Daniel just looks to be really enjoying it. I mean, we enjoy going and speaking to him at the press conferences like we did this afternoon. He's a very affable guy, isn't he? He shakes hands. He's happy to have a little bit of a chat, and he just looks on top of the world at the moment, doesn't he?
He's just very measured in everything he does, and it's worth reiterating because we do see him fairly regularly with the flow of the games and the press conferences, that his demeanour didn't change at all. He's the same guy he was this afternoon as he was after Villa, after Millwall, and I think in terms of his players, that almost even keel mentality, I think, has really helped, because there's a lot of young players there. There's a lot of new players there to English football, and particularly in those difficult moments of the season so far, just to have a manager who just keeps it on the level and can understand the difficulties they're going through, but there's no need to panic. There's no trace of, right, okay, this isn't working, I don't know what I'm doing, or emit any vibes that he wasn't confident in his own ability to put them on the right path. I think it's huge credit to him, really, that he has grasped the nettle and turned it around in the manner he has. I mean, it's phenomenal, really, when you think about it, to go, from what we saw at the Villas and the Millwalls to now 9 unbeaten, a League Cup tie at Arsenal tomorrow, into the top 6 for the first time this season. With, and this again is a testament to the guy. Never does he reel off. I saw some Mourinho quotes actually last week where he's gone about other managers who always hide behind injuries, and they're always, moaning that there's mitigating circumstances. Not once has Daniel Farke ever said, well, look at our injury list, look at the players we had to sell in the summer because of the financial imperative. And I think that is also, a testament to him and how he carries himself, that, he's not looking for excuses. They will go with what they've got. It's stock phrase, we'll put 11 centre-backs on the pitch if we have to, it's kind of that negative into a positive all the time. And that positivity has clearly rubbed off for that group of players. And now, as I say, the fans can see that on the pitch because the results have turned. Nobody's for 1 minute saying that they're playing free-flowing football and it's, you sit back and you're going to be entertained royally. They're digging out results, but there's a beauty in that, to be fair, because we haven't seen that from a Norwich team for, many a season, I would suggest. Certainly not last season. If they went to a Sheffield United last season, would they have come back with a 1-0? Don't think so. Middlesbrough the same. Ipswich the same. So, the fans can see that. They're not stupid. They can see something is building, that this manager is getting a real positive reaction out of that group of players. They're all in it together. And I think that's, and again, he reiterated it today, those at the final whistle celebrations when they go over to the fans, as they did yesterday, as they did at Middlesbrough, that isn't contrived, because Farke is very big on this. We're all in it together. Yeah. We need the fans. That, yeah, we're standing on the shoulders of the fans. We have to be remember, it's a privilege to represent that group of fans and this football club, and they're not empty sound bites. When he says it, you believe that he believes it, and that he's getting his players to believe it as well. So, yeah, it feels after 12, 18 months maybe of kind of grind, it feels like they've come out the other side now, and it could be some positive times ahead.
What I like is behind the smiles and the jokes. He likes to inject a bit of humour into his press conferences. There is a steeliness behind that glare as well, isn't there? And I quite enjoyed hearing Mick McCarthy say that once Norwich had the lead, that everyone knows they're a solid team, that they're difficult to break down. Yeah. When have you last been able to say that about a Norwich team? I mean, it's great to hear opposition managers say that. And just while it's still fresh in the mind, we were talking about James Maddison, and just wanted to remind you that Maddison did sign a new contract in the summer, and which I believe was 2020, with the club having a further year, so not too much need to panic. Just looking at your comments, I've got a question here from Jason Butcher. Can we recall Carlton Morris? I'm fairly sure the answer is no, isn't it?
Is he season long, or is he January?
I think he's a season long, but yeah. Ben Godfrey is January. Yeah. And I think you've got FIFA to blame for that, because I think loan deals a few years ago, the rules changed so that loan deals are only loans in loose terms to fans, and in football terms, really. They are transfers from window to window. So as far as I'm aware, Carlton Morris is at Shrewsbury for the season. Richard Baker, any news on Jarvis? We've not had an update on him for a little while.
February was the last update. Yeah, you won't be seeing him before then. And let's be honest, would he force his way in? Probably unlikely. No,
I think he's going to be looking at a loan at best, isn't he? Because he's going to have to. He's not going to play proper football for quite a while. Martin Newland, let's not get carried away, but surely we're now back on for the playoffs. If we can sort out our home form, we have a great chance. Clearly there's going to be plenty of fans who want to sort of get in on this. I mean, that's 5 away wins on the bounce, which I believe is level with the club record, which was at the start of the 1988-89 season. So if they were to win at the Emirates tomorrow night, I think that'll be a club record. But I do want to just check through the record books a little bit more. But do you think that's fair? Do you think it's a little bit early to be saying they're now in playoff contention, because there's clearly a long way to go?
Well, there is, but yeah, for me they are, because you know, I think we've gone past the quarter of the season stage, if I'm not mistaken. So you know, for me that's plenty long enough to be making some assessments about, you know, which areas of the table you can target. I mean, it always felt, you know, 8th last season. I said it at the start. You know, 8th for me was the benchmark. You know, that would be par for me. That if they were to emulate that. Even though we knew at the start of the season, again, they were quite open about it, it was going to take time to gel that amount of turnover of players and a new head coach and a new football instructor, if you want to broaden it out, you know, with Stuart Webber. There wasn't going to be the fast start, you know, it was going to be a bit more of the tortoise rather than the hare, but I think there was still a feeling that because they've gone down this quite bold approach, that if it was to come together, that they wouldn't be too far away come the end of the season. So you might even argue now they're a little bit ahead of the curve, albeit, as that question rightly points out, there's a little bit of a sort of a distinction between what they're doing away from home, which is, you know, going away being very hard to beat and more often than not picking up 3 points, and at home where it is a little bit more of a struggle creatively to sort of marry that defensive resolve with a little bit more in the final third at Carrow Road. But I mean, that'll come, you know, that'll come. I don't think that, you know, it'd be totally unrealistic to expect them now to be firing on all cylinders. But
someone's due a spanking at Carrow Road. I mean, if they'd have scored first against Hull,
you would think so.
They may well have got it.
And as I say, for me, a lot of this will revolve around Alex Pritchard's return, which hopefully we're looking at mid-December optimistically, maybe more so into the early new year, because once he's back up to speed, as we saw in that 10-game stretch last season, yes, I know, different manager as it was, Alan Irvine, different set of players in a large regard, but Norwich didn't struggle to score goals, did they, with him in the side, because he's an excellent player, and him and Maddison, if you could get them two in harness, I don't think we'd be sat here talking about problems scoring goals, you know, or certainly creating chances. So
those two with Oliveira, if you can somehow fit them in,
well,
it's very exciting.
Yeah, but you'd rather, if you're Daniel Farke, you'd rather want to be in that scenario than, oh my God, Oliveira's not fit to play 90 minutes, Jerome putting too much load on him, who do we go to? You know, you'd rather have those sort of selection issues than the other way around. So, yeah, long-winded way of saying playoffs, certainly, yeah, they're there now, they're there on merit, and you can't see them regressing now. You can only see them going on further and developing. And yes, okay, as Farke said, it's football, there will be setbacks, they are going to lose games. You know, they're not going to go from this point onwards now not losing the game, so that there will be, you know, maybe the odd game where you think, okay, well, maybe we just need to temper the rise in expectation. But I think overall, the trend looks to me to be very positive. And and also, now the league is taking shape. I'm looking around there, I'm looking at Wolves. We had a discussion, didn't we, earlier on? They apparently would seem to be the team who are the standout team at the minute.
We'll find out next week.
That will be interesting at Carrow Road. But you take them out of the equation, and I'm not, you know, Leeds started like a train. Look at them, they've plateaued in a big way. Borough, Gary Monk's coming under pressure now hugely. Hull, yeah, they looked at quite streetwise operation, but I wouldn't say they were a team you would fear. Villa seems to be getting it together, but they, you know, the chart of Villa in recent seasons tell you that could just as easily go the other way again. So, no, I'm not seeing anything that would lead me to think, well, it's going to be tough to get into the top six, because there's some really seriously good units around the league. I think if Norwich continue on their path, then they won't be far away.
Nice. Sue Cassidy, do you think Todd Cantwell could get a chance? So there's every chance he'll be on the bench tomorrow night, isn't there? Just with numbers being so low, and we were even talking about it on the way home yesterday that James Maddison, you certainly don't want to be giving him 90 minutes. I'm sure Maddison will want to play at the Emirates because it's going to be a big game, and by the looks of it, it looks like there might be a big crowd there. It looks like there's probably going to be 45,000 tickets already sold, and from a few Twitter comments, some of the Arsenal fans seem to think it's going to be bigger than that as well. So yeah, Cantwell, can you see him being involved?
I certainly could see him. I mean, Phillips was on the bench for the previous round, wasn't he, at Brentford, or the previous round before that, I lose track. So, yeah, I could see them sort of lads being in and around it, just because, you know, with cup tied in Hanley's example and injury concerns, they haven't got the depth of squad. So, yeah, and what a great experience for those lads, even if they don't get anywhere near actually, you know, the starting 11, just to be in and around it. going to a place like Arsenal, as much as it's going to be something to savour for the fans. For those lads, can you imagine what that would be like to be anywhere near that?
Funnily enough, Todd Cantwell was linked with Arsenal when he was younger, wasn't he? At one point, they were said to be looking to nick him off Norwich. Now, we've got Mystic Meg's son here, I think, Dean Bowman. So the last 2 games I've written on your post and called both goals from Nelson against Hull and Maddison against Ipswich. Do I dare say 1-0 Norwich closer header? So remember that one. Dean's your man. If it's 1-0 and closer scores.
If that comes to pass, then I want to know that man's phone number.
Yeah, so what the lottery numbers are.
I'll be down Ladbrokes.
Derby. James Pegg. When are our young strikers going to get brought into the mix? For example, Tristan Abrahams. Now, Pierre Foncu hasn't been playing that much for the under-23s, I don't think, has he? So I'm not sure if there's an issue there. The timing.
It's been more Abraham, hasn't it? To be fair.
Abrahams has scored a few goals, hasn't he? We haven't been able to get to the under-23s games this year as much as in previous seasons because they've changed the time of kick-off, which is early on Sunday afternoons, which I'm not sure suits fans. It certainly doesn't suit us particularly well with our working week. So we try to get to as many as we can, obviously. But that's the next option, isn't it? If Nelson is at that point where you think, I don't want to risk him, because it's actually been in the warm-up for the last or for recent games with him that he's had a problem, isn't it? So you would have thought that one of those boys is going to be travelling and could be on the bench in that scenario.
Well, definitely, yeah. I mean, as you say, Watkins is unavailable. Josh Murphy is tonsillitis / broken toe, so he's not in the best of shape, is he? So you take them 2 out of the equation, then it is who's the next go-to, and much play has been made, and we've seen some big changes in the academy, but much play has been made about. I think Stuart Webber used the phrase that development side almost needs to be Norwich B. It needs to be Norwich's second team, and by definition, what he's saying there is lads who are playing at that level can make the step up, are good enough to make the step up, and able to make the step up. Much as we've spoken about Maddison, he's bridged from not really being anywhere near it last season to be now an integral part of the 11. Never mind the squad. So, yeah. In other words, if you think Abraham or Foncu are good enough to be in your development squad and are capable of pushing on, then by definition, then why not take them to Arsenal? We're not saying play them in front of Jerome or whatever, or put them on the bench instead of Oliveira if Oliveira could do you 20 minutes, but certainly bring them and get them in and around it, because ultimately, as Webber again made it quite clear, they're going to now rely on that academy seam of talent, that conveyor belt moving forward, because financially that's the way they have to go. So they need to start developing their own, and in far bigger quantities than we've seen in the last sort of probably 5 years.
Okey-doke. Right. One other selection issue that I think will be interesting tomorrow night is the central midfield. I thought Harrison Reed probably had his best game yet yesterday. Certainly second half he really came into it and he really tried hard. And Tom Dryball, again, he's not particularly spectacular, but he really has got something. He reads the game so well that he almost seems to make challenges before the player he's challenging realises that they've got the ball. He is a real classy player, and they're probably both going to have to play because there really aren't any options there, are there? If Marco Stiepermann is struggling with a bit of tonsillitis, you'd have thought James Husband will probably start at left back anyway, but Stiepermann's probably your only other real option that could play in that holding role. So Reed and Tribal, with perhaps Adam Phillips on the bench, is probably what you're looking at for that position, isn't it?
I don't see any other. I mean, as you break it down there, Dave, that's what other options would you have to go unless you're changing systems? And he's been loath to do that since Millwall. So I'd agree. I thought Reed was very good second half. He really, broke up play and patrolled in front of his back four. Not in the style of a Tete, because obviously they're different type of players, but he was very effective, I thought, and Tribal, just a very intelligent footballer, and at the risk of repeating myself, it just concerns me hugely now that it is now getting into the bare bones territory. The needle is getting down towards the empty, to use a bizarre analogy. I don't know where I got that one from, but and now you would be very concerned if they pick up any more injuries, because it would be just a shame if this momentum now, particularly in the Championship, which is what we're talking about, what is really going to matter moving forward, if that is checked, not so much through coming up against better teams or better players, but just because basically they can't put the teams out on the pitch to be competitive.
That would be a shame.
That would be a shame, but it is getting to that stage now. Particularly, Farke on Friday wasn't able to give us any more update on Tete's absence, whether it's going to be 4 weeks or whether it's going to be longer than that. So, it is. When you stop and think about it, it's almost, while it's really concerning, it is again reiterating what an unbelievable effort from the lads who are fit and able to go out on the park, that they've still been able to maintain, as you're talking there, club record scale runs. It's just a huge feather in the cap of Farke and those players who've been able to go and put those results together. So, whether they can do one tomorrow night, I don't know. I think it's going to be tough, that, because you're not. There's a world of difference between the level of Championship player and the level of Arsenal's player, even if it is their younger players, who by definition will be very keen to impress Wenger, won't they? Yeah. So, that could be a bridge too far. But as I say, if it is, then so be it. But Derby this Saturday for me is the more important of the two games. Tomorrow is really, I think I wrote about it today. It's like a reward for perseverance. They deserve to go there and enjoy that occasion tomorrow night and put in a good performance, you hope, but ultimately what matters is, as it did yesterday, is what happens at Carabao Road Saturday afternoon. We'll
try and enjoy it. Just to finish off with a couple of stats, 9 unbeaten, that's the first time since 2012 that, when you look back on it, that unbeaten run under Chris Hughton in the Premier League, 10 games, that only included 1 cup game. That was a heck of a run, wasn't it? And that was what pretty much secured the Premier League survival that season. So first time that they've got 9 unbeaten since then, so they could equal that 10 unbeaten if they can get a good result tomorrow night. And 9 unbeaten against Ipswich is the best record in the history of the East Anglian Derby in the league and cup competitions. So all good stuff. Final comment, Brian Cornwell, again. I believe we should go get our Bradley back. What do you think? I think
scored, didn't he, at the weekend?
Yeah, he's been doing all right. He's become more of a part of the team, hasn't he, at Derby? And Bradley Johnson, of course, he's referring to. But I think we can park the Bradley Johnson talk until later in the week, can't we? Let's enjoy this Arsenal game tomorrow night. 8,800 of you going. 30-odd coaches leaving from Carrow Road tomorrow afternoon. It should be a good night. Right, Pad, thanks very much for that. Plenty to get your teeth into at PinkUn.com. Loads of videos from Daniel's press conference earlier this afternoon to get your teeth into this evening. And we will catch up with you at the Emirates tomorrow night.